Alright, let me set the scene for you. Picture this, a mountain lake, so early in the morning that the world hasn't quite woken up yet. The air is completely still, and the water's surface is like a sheet of dark, polished glass. It's the kind of peaceful that feels almost sacred. This is where our story starts, with a guy we'll call Jared. Jared is an early bird, a seasoned fisherman. He slides his little aluminum boat into the water, the only sound being the gentle lapping against the hull. It's just him, his tackle box, and that incredible sunrise glow that paints everything in shades of orange and pink. It's a perfect, wholesome morning until it isn't. He rows out to his favorite spot in the middle of the lake, casts his line, and settles in. For about an hour, it's pure bliss. The silence, the fresh air, the anticipation. But then, he starts to notice something. Off, out of the corner of his eye, he sees slow, deliberate ripples forming near the side of his boat. This isn't the quick splash of a fish jumping, or the chaotic pattern of the wind. No, these ripples were different. They were rhythmic, methodical. It looked like the water itself was breathing. He tries to rationalize it. Okay, Jared, chill out. He probably thinks to himself, maybe it's just a current, or a really big catfish. But the feeling of being watched starts to creep in. The perfect silence of the morning suddenly feels heavy, oppressive. He reels in his line, deciding to shift his position just a little. And that's when he hears it for the first time. It's a sound that doesn't belong. A slow, wet, heavy breath, coming from directly underneath the boat. It's a deep, guttural sound, like something that has been holding its breath for a century, finally letting it out. And it's so close, so immediate, that the thin aluminum hull of his boat vibrates with each exhalation. He can feel it in his feet, a low thrum that travels up his spine and makes the hair on his arms stand on end. He freezes, every instinct is screaming, but he's in the middle of a lake. What can he do? He tells himself it's his imagination. He forces a cough, shifts his weight in the boat, just to make a normal sound. But the breathing under the boat responds. It matches his rhythm. When he's still, it's slow and steady. When he makes a slight movement, the breathing seems to pause, as if listening, before resuming its terrifying cadence. It's intelligent, it knows he's there. And then come the bubbles. Not the little bloop bloop of fish. These are huge, singular bubbles that break the surface with a thick, oily pop. One would rise up every minute or so, like a giant unseen lung releasing stale air from the deep. He's trying to stay calm, remembering that panic on the water is a recipe for disaster. But how can you stay calm when you feel like you're re-sitting on top of a sleeping monster that's starting to wake up? He can't take it anymore. He has to get back to shore. Slowly, carefully, he picks up his oars and dips them into the water, trying to make as little noise as possible. He pulls a long, smooth stroke. The boat glides forward, and the breathing follows. It stays perfectly centered beneath him, a horrifying, unseen companion. He pulls another stroke, a little faster this time. The breathing quickens its pace to match his. It's toying with him. The shore seems a million miles away. He starts rowing harder, the fear finally winning out over his attempts at stealth. The rhythmic splashing of his oars is now accompanied by that wet, gurgling breath from below, and the sound is changing. It's no longer just breathing. Low, throaty groans are now mixed in. It's not a sound a human could make. It's not a sound any animal he's ever heard could make. It sounds ancient, pained, and deeply wrong. Imagine the noise a creature with mangled gills would make if it were trying to form words. It was that kind of guttural, wet, horrifying sound. He's in a full-blown panic now, rowing with all his might, his heart hammering against his ribs. The boat is cutting through the water, and that grotesque sound is right there with him, an inch of aluminum away from whatever is making it. He doesn't dare look over the side. He keeps his eyes locked on the shoreline, on the solid ground that represents safety. Then, about halfway to shore, as suddenly as it began, it stops. Complete, deafening silence. The breathing is gone. The groaning is gone. The bubbles are gone. The water is once again a perfect, undisturbed mirror. For a terrifying second, Jared thinks this is even worse. Did it leave, or is it preparing to do something else? He doesn't wait to find out. He rows like his life depends on it, the last 100 yards a blur of adrenaline and terror. The bow of his boat grinds onto the muddy shore. He doesn't even bother tying it up. He scrambles out, stumbling onto solid ground, and just runs. He doesn't look back. He just gets in his truck and peels out of there, leaving his gear, his boat, everything, behind. Later that afternoon, after he's managed to calm his nerves enough to form sentences, he convinces a buddy to go back with him to retrieve his boat. They get there, and the sun is high in the sky. The lake looks beautiful and harmless, the way it did that morning. It's almost enough to make Jared think he imagined the whole thing. Almost. But when they get to the spot where he dragged his boat onto the shore, his blood runs cold. There, in the soft mud, were the clear marks where his boat had been. And leading from the boat back toward the water's edge was another set of marks. Massive, deep drag marks, as if something had tried to pull the 10-foot aluminum boat back into the lake after he'd left. Jared didn't sleep for a week after that. He sold his boat and his fishing gear, and to this day, he will not go near that lake, and he will never, ever fish alone again. And honestly, after hearing that, can you blame him? I definitely can't. So, what do you guys think was under that boat? Let me know your theories down in the comments. It's stories like this that remind us that even in the most peaceful places, there are depths we know nothing about. Alright, settle in for this one, because it's a story that will make you think twice about ever fishing alone again. This comes from a viewer named Claire, and it happened on one of those picture-perfect afternoons. You know the kind I'm talking about. She's found this perfect, secluded spot by a river. The sun is filtering through the trees, casting those beautiful dappled shadows on the water. The river is making that gentle, rushing sound. She's got her headphones in, listening to her favorite playlist, just feeling like the main character in her own peaceful movie. It's pure bliss. She's been out there for a few hours, just enjoying the quiet, lost in the rhythm of casting and reeling. The sun starts to dip lower, painting the sky with those incredible sunset oranges and purples. It's that magic hour. But as the light begins to fade, something catches her eye from across the river. It's a patch of tall reeds, and they're swaying. At first, she dismisses it. It's just the wind, right? But she keeps watching, and the movement isn't quite right. It's not the gentle, uniform sway you'd expect from a breeze. It's more deliberate. It's like something big and heavy, crouched down low inside the reeds, just shifted its weight. A shiver, completely unrelated to the evening chill, runs down her spine. Instinctively, she pauses her music. The sudden silence is almost deafening after the music. All she can hear now is the rush of the river and the distant chirping of crickets starting their nightly chorus. She stares intently at the reeds, her heart starting to beat a little faster. She listens, hard, but there's nothing. Just silence. Maybe it was a deer, or a beaver, or just her imagination getting the best of her as the light failed. Shaking her head a little, she tries to laugh it off. She tells herself she's being paranoid, and turns her attention back to her fishing rod, determined to enjoy the last few moments of her peaceful day. She casts her line one more time, the lure making a satisfying little plink as it hits the water. She starts to reel it in slowly, the familiar motion calming her nerves. And that's when she hears it. A splash. But this isn't the sound of a fish jumping. No, this is a heavy, displaced sound. A thump splash, the kind of sound a person would make stepping off a muddy bank into the water. It's slow, deliberate, and way too close for comfort. Her blood runs cold. Every nerve in her body is screaming at her. Slowly, ever so slowly, she turns her head back towards the reeds across the river. And that's when she sees it. Peeking out from between the green and brown stalks, there is a face, a human face. It's pale, almost unnaturally so in the dimming light. It's completely expressionless, the features slack and empty. The eyes are wide and dark, fixed directly on her. It's just watching her. Frozen, she yanks her headphones out of her ears as if they were on fire, as if her life suddenly had a warning soundtrack that just got cut off. The world rushes in, every tiny sound amplified. The buzzing of a fly, the rustle of a leaf, the frantic thumping of her own heart against her ribs. Her voice is shaky, barely a whisper at first. She tries to clear her throat and calls out, trying to sound braver than she feels. "Ah, hi, can I help you?" The words hang in the air, but there's no reply. The face doesn't move. It doesn't blink. It doesn't react in any way. It just continues to stare, its gaze unwavering and incredibly unsettling. It feels like she's looking at a photograph, a mask, not a living person. An eternity seems to pass in that silent standoff. Just her, the river, and the blank, pale face in the reeds. And then, something happens that defies all logic. As calmly and smoothly as someone turning off a light switch, the head begins to sink. It doesn't lean back. It doesn't turn away. It goes straight down, submerging into the dark river water until it vanishes completely, leaving behind only the gently swaying reeds and a few ripples on the surface. There's no struggle, no bubbles, no sound. It's just gone. That's it. That's the breaking point. The illusion of safety is shattered into a million pieces. Adrenaline floods her system. She doesn't even bother reeling in her line. She drops her fishing rod, grabs her tackle box and her bag, and just bolts. She scrambles up the muddy bank, slipping and sliding, her only thought to get to her car. As she's frantically throwing her gear into the back seat, fumbling with her keys, she hears a new sound. It's a squishing, dragging noise coming from the direction of the riverbank she just fled. It's the unmistakable sound of wet, heavy feet being dragged across mud. It's getting closer. She doesn't dare look back. She jumps into the driver's seat, slams the door, and locks it. Her hands are shaking so badly she can barely get the key into the ignition. The engine roars to life and she floors it, tires spinning in the mud before finding purchase. She speeds away down the dirt track, not once looking in her rearview mirror until she hits the main road. Days later, after the initial terror had subsided into a gnawing, dreadful curiosity, she found herself sitting at her computer late at night. She couldn't shake the image of that face from her mind. She started Googling, typing in the name of the river and phrases like missing person or unexplained disappearance. And then she found it, an article from a few months prior. A local man had vanished without a trace while fishing in that exact area. He was last seen heading to the river alone, just like her. They found his car and his fishing gear, but his body was never recovered. Now, Claire says she has to drive past that stretch of river on her way to work sometimes. And every single time, she can't help but glance over at that spot. And she swears, every single time, out of the corner of her eye, she sees it. A subtle movement in the reeds, a flicker of motion that isn't the wind, a silent invitation from the water. Alright, gather round, because this next story is one of those that just sticks with you, crawling under your skin and making a little home there. It comes from two brothers who were out fishing, and it proves that you don't need a dark, stormy night for things to get terrifying. Sometimes, the brightest, most peaceful days hide the deepest horrors. So, picture this. It's the middle of the day, sun high in the sky, not a cloud to be seen. Two brothers, let's call them Mark and David, are out on their small aluminum boat in the middle of a swampy bayou. The air is thick and humid, filled with the buzzing of insects and the gentle lapping of water against the hull. It's the definition of a lazy, perfect afternoon. They're just chilling, casting their lines, laughing and joking around. They've got a bag of gas station chips, some lukewarm sodas. They're just living their best life, completely at ease in their environment. This is their turf. They've been fishing these waters since they were kids. They in the middle of a debate about who's the better fisherman when Mark notices something. Right beside the boat, the water starts to swirl. Not a big, dramatic splash, just a quiet, lazy vortex forming in the murky water. Their first thought, gator, of course. This is the bayou, after all. Alligators are just part of the scenery, like the cypress trees and Spanish moss. So, they don't panic, they just watch, curious. It's a normal part of their day. They've seen gators bigger than their boat before. No big deal. But this is different. The swirling gets stronger. It's not the kind of movement a gator makes when it's just cruising by. This is more deliberate, more powerful. The small vortex grows, and soon the water is churning enough to start rocking their little boat back and forth. Now, they're a little on edge. The joking stops. They exchange a look, a silent question passing between them. What is that? It's too strong for a gator, too focused. It feels like something is intentionally stirring the water right next to them. And then, something begins to rise from the depths. It's not fast. There's no sudden lunge or splash. It's a slow, methodical ascent, as if whatever it is has all the time in the world and doesn't care one bit if they see it. It's this unnerving confidence that really sets them on edge. First, they see a shape breaking the surface. It's a slick, gray thing. A limb, maybe. They can't tell if it's an arm or a leg. The skin is completely smooth, hairless like a dolphin's. But this is a freshwater bayou, miles and miles from the ocean. No dolphins here. The limb keeps rising, and that's when their blood runs cold. At the end of it, there's a hand. A hand that is unnervingly human-like, but completely wrong. It has long, slender fingers, but there are no fingernails. The tips are just smooth, rounded nubs, like soft, polished bone. It's a detail so small, so bizarre, that it's more terrifying than any claw or talon could ever be. This gray, nail-less hand reaches up and grips the side of their boat. Again, there's no violence to the action. It just slowly, deliberately, curls its long fingers around the aluminum edge. It's as if it's just testing the texture, feeling the boat with a strange alien curiosity. The brothers are completely frozen, the kind of fear that bypasses screaming and goes straight into a silent, wide-eyed paralysis. Their brains are trying to process what they're seeing, but there's no frame of reference for it. It's not an animal they recognize. It's not a person. It's something else entirely. For what feels like an eternity, they just stare at this hand, this impossible hand, resting calmly on the edge of their boat. The world seems to have gone silent. All they can hear is the frantic pounding of their own hearts. Then, on the other side of the boat, another identical limb breaks the surface. Another hand, just as smooth, just as gray, just as wrong. It doesn't grab the boat, it just rests on the water's surface, as if to steady itself. A moment later, they feel a solid pressure against the underside of the boat. A dull thud, followed by a steady, upward force. The boat lifts slightly out of the water. Whatever is down there is big, and it's strong. It's under them, around them, and now it's trying to get in with them. That's what finally breaks the spell for David, the older brother. Primal survival instinct kicks in. He snatches up a wooden oar, and with a guttural yell he didn't even know he had in him, he swings it down with all his might, smacking the hand that's gripping the boat. He expected it to recoil, to let go, maybe hiss in pain, but it doesn't. Instead of letting go, the fingers squeeze. They tighten their grip on the aluminum hull. The brothers hear a low, groaning, flexing noise as the metal of their boat actually begins to dent inward. It's a quiet, sickening sound. The sound of immense strength being applied with zero effort. This creature, whatever it was, could have crushed their boat like a soda can if it wanted to. It was just playing with them. The message was clear. Your resistance is meaningless. The sight of the boat's metal giving way under that casual squeeze breaks them. This is a fight they cannot win. This isn't an animal. It's a monster from a nightmare. They are completely and utterly helpless. The terror is absolute. They're just waiting for the final pull. The one that will flip the boat and drag them down into the murky water with this thing. But it never comes. Just as suddenly as it appeared, the creature lets go. The hand uncurls its long fingers and slides back beneath the surface. The pressure from below vanishes. The water, which had been churning moments before, goes completely still, as if nothing ever happened. There's no ripple, no bubble, nothing to suggest anything was ever there. It was just gone. The brothers don't wait. They don't talk. They don't even look at each other. They grab the oars and they paddle. They paddle like their lives depend on it, which they're pretty sure they do. They don't care about their fishing gear. They don't care about the snacks floating around their feet. They just paddle, their movements frantic and desperate, aiming for the distant shoreline. They put Olympic rowers to shame, fueled by a pure, primal terror that gave them strength they never knew they possessed. They made it back to the dock, scrambled out of the boat, and didn't look back. They just got in their truck and drove, leaving the boat and all their gear behind. They didn't talk about it for hours. When they finally did, their voices were shaky, and they kept looking over their shoulders. The dent in the side of the boat was the only physical proof that it wasn't some shared hallucination. For months afterward, both brothers had the same recurring nightmare. They'd be lying in bed, and they would feel a cold, smooth hand grab their ankle from the darkness under the bed, trying to pull them down. They said the feeling was so real, they'd wake up kicking and screaming. After hearing their story, I can tell you one thing for sure. I am never, ever dipping my feet off the side of a boat or a dock again. You just never know what might be waiting below, ready to reach up and say hello. Thanks for watching, everyone. It says stories like these that remind us just how much of our world is still a mystery. If you have a story you think we should hear, let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this little dip into the unknown, Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Stay safe out there.